Welcome to this episode of For the Love of the Sport, where our mission is to educate athletes to be successful on stage and beyond. And we are interviewing Allen Sizemore today, who is the NPC Tennessee State Chairman. He is an NPC and IFBB Pro judge, head expediter, and so much more. The list could go on. So Allen, we're going to jump right in today.
All right, I'm ready.
Ready? Okay. What is your role? I think a lot of people know kind of like what a judge is, what an expediter is, but as the Tennessee State Chairman, what is your role as chairman and how did you become chairman?
Well, it all started back in like fourth grade when Miss Johnson, my high school, my teacher said I was going to be great. And enough about her. It's basically, I'm like everyone else. I competed. I was a competitor. I got into it. I got into it late, honestly. I got into it when I was in my early 30s and started working out and just progressed through the sport and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed being on stage. Now, my thing was I couldn't do every show. So I volunteered, and I volunteered at every show that needed a volunteer. And I did that for years. And I wound up being a volunteer, wound up being an expediter, wound up being a head expediter. And after, several years of that, I wound up being the vice chairman of Tennessee, working under Roger McConnell. And Roger, was the Tennessee State Chairman at the time. And Roger retired a few years back. And they asked me, did I want to be the Tennessee State Chairman? And I said, yes. And that's how I became chairman. Now, the duties of the chairman. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it really all started from volunteering, honestly. When I started volunteering, I learned so much about the show, what goes on behind the scenes, about the judging. In the meantime, all that was going on, I became a judge. But when I became state chairman, it wound up being a lot more on my shoulders, as all the rules came down from the national office, which is in Pittsburgh. Jim Mannion started the NPC in 1982, and they had a basic, set of rules, and those rules may have changed over years, or they put a new rule in. And as everyone knows, yourself included, when I started, it wasn't bikini, it wasn't men's physique. Yeah. It all started, so all these rules had to be implemented for each one of these classes. So when we go to a show, I'm kind of like the referee there to kind of make sure everyone's following the rules, and we run it in a manner that our national office would like to see it.
That's a good way to put it.
That's kind of my role in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, because I know you have a lot more responsibilities than that, but that's a good way to sum it up.
Yes.
So one other thing that I didn't mention is Allen is also a promoter of a few shows in Tennessee. So what is your role as a promoter? What does that entail?
Well, I'm the Tennessee State Chairman. I also promote a couple of shows in Tennessee. And you've been one of the promoters in Tennessee. I'm going to turn it back on you and go, what's the role of the promoter? You're like you're one of our youngest promoters. The show has been around for what, 4 or 5 years?
Yep, this will be the 5th year of the show.
5th year. You've done amazing with it. So tell us a little bit what your role is, and I'll meet you on the other side.
All right, deal. So where do I even start? Nobody really teaches you how to promote a show. You kind of just jump in and figure it out, or at least that's how it was for me. So we basically, I feel like we work for the athletes. Like we're here for the athletes and focus on their experience. So what does that mean? It comes down to like, we do everything from picking a venue and coordinating all aspects of the show, from figuring out the stage setup and the lighting to bringing on sponsors and arranging vendors at a show, picking a host hotel, negotiating deals for a discount rate for athletes, and choosing one that is either connected with the venue or whatever makes it easiest for athletes. I always try to get one either in the same building where the venue and the hotel is attached, or it's walking distance, because as a competitor, I always hated having to drive back and forth. So I try to keep in mind everything I wanted as an athlete and bring that into the show. So choosing the tanning company. I always want, the tanning is so important to the athlete experience. So customer service is very important to me. So any company that I choose is going to have excellent customer service. So the tanning company, arranging the hair and makeup teams, basically just making sure we have the best people and everything in place to ensure that the athletes have the best experience possible. That's the best I can sum it up. What do you have to add?
Well, I mean, we put a list of rules down that you had to follow, and it really all falls back on athletes. I don't know if a lot of the viewers know or not, but we all support each other also. All of our promoters in Tennessee, you'll see if you go to the Tennessee State show, they're promoting your show. The Memphis show is promoting the Knox Classic. We all promote each other. The Battle of the River, I've saw them put 2 or 3 things out already of a couple of shows that are not theirs. But us all working together, it makes the whole stronger. So Tennessee as a whole is a lot stronger, and we can't do that without the athletes. And we have some amazing athletes in Tennessee. And I think we've created a foundation in Tennessee, which it gives the athletes way more than what I had, or way more what you had when you was competing. For one, workshops.
Yep.
We do a ton of workshops in Tennessee, some free, some you got to pay for. It's according to what you're looking for. For the big part of that is just knowledge. They cannot get too much knowledge.
Right.
So, if it's a posting workshop or going to shows, I tell all athletes, go and support the shows. Go and watch a show.
Yep.
We get a lot of athletes, and we had the same thing at your show last year. A lot of ladies came in, had never been to a show, and they did your show for the first time.
Yeah.
And for myself, that would scare me because I didn't, I wouldn't know what to expect. But They did an amazing job. They had good information. You do a lot of videos explaining what's going to happen. And I think by that made your show over the past 5 years very successful.
Yeah. And so you just brought up something really good. Another role that we have as not just as promoters, but even your role as state chairman. If we want the athletes to have a great experience, well, if we educate them on how to be successful ahead of time, that's going to make them have a great experience. So that's why we host these workshops, and most of them are free because we just want the athletes to have a good experience and educate them. So I think
it goes back to, I had a meeting with all the promoters and said, hey, when we go work on our websites, let's make them as simple as possible and make them where they're athlete friendly. Where we go through athlete info. They click on that, take them straight to Musclewear. They can kind of pick what classes they want. Exit out, hair and makeup, click on it. Trying to keep everything as simple as possible. I know that sounds very trivial, but when you're getting ready for a show, you want everything as easy as possible.
Yeah. And just available, because I remember when I first started competing, there was a website for the shows, but there was like nothing on it. And it wasn't ever updated until like a month or two before the show. So as athletes, it's like, who do I call to get this information? It was very stressful. And so I think you experienced this too, probably. And that's why we try to go above and beyond on getting the information out and making it simple for athletes.
Yeah. And you can go to any website in Tennessee and purchase your NPC card. That's what an athlete has to do first. They have to have an NPC card. It's kind of like a membership card. Yeah. They can do a show anywhere in the world with that card. It's good for a full year, December 31st or January 1st, all the way to December 31st. Yep. And, it's a great opportunity to have that card whenever you go somewhere else and you decide to compete. You don't have to go through all that thing. So I always tell everybody, New Year's resolution, get an NPC card.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know it. You're an IFBB Pro, and you have to have an NPC card because you put on a NPC show.
I did.
And that's our insurance, that covers us. A lot of pros want a backstage pass. If a show is not a pro-am, they will have to buy an NPC card to go backstage.
Yeah. And it all comes back to liability and insurance. That's why it's required. It's not like, oh, the NPC is just trying to get more money. Well, it's not that. It's if anything happens to you backstage, we want it to be covered under insurance. And if you don't have an NPC card, you're not covered under the insurance, and it could be pretty bad for us anyway. So
yeah, because I mean, you know, we got some really good shows in Tennessee, and we like to keep them. So
yeah, we'd like to keep them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And for anyone watching on this, everyone is invited. I invite everyone watching, come to a Tennessee show. You know, I'll be there. Whitney will be there. She'll either be promoting or she's our head expediter. When she's not promoting her show, she'll be on stage moving people around and stuff. But come up, talk to either one of us. We'd be happy to answer any question that you may have.
yep. So I want to talk about how, now that the athletes know like what a promoter is, what a state chairman is, how they can help us. And I'm going to give a couple of things, and if you want to add anything to it, you can. So how can athletes do their part and help the promoters out? Number one, register early. It is such a nightmare to try to plan an event when everybody is registering like 2 weeks out, and we don't have enough competitor bags to give you, or t-shirts, or just, there's so much that goes into planning an event that it takes time to get all that stuff for you guys. So the sooner you register and we know how many people to plan for, it's so much easier on us. So please register early. That's why it helps us. For you as athletes, to me, it's just making that commitment. It's going to make you prep harder because you're committed. Once you register, you're committed to the show and you have to do it. So I think it's an extra level of motivation myself.
I do too. I tell everyone when I was competing, I'd pick a show and I would do that show if I was in shape or not. That's what I committed to, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't where I need to be, I would go back to the drawing board and fix it, or try to find out what went wrong. I'd pick another show, I'd register for it, and I would commit to that. You know, it's easy to bail out and say I'll do it later, but when you commit to something, it's like your whole mind frame changes. You know, it goes into like, hey, I'm just going to up my game right now.
Agree. And you brought up a good point too. You can learn something from every show, even if like you don't come in your best or conditioning as your best or what you feel like is your best. Getting on stage, every time you get on stage, you're going to learn something about how to be better the next time, whether you just learn it yourself or you learn it by getting judges' feedback, which you should always do. But they're always going to bring something to your attention that you might not have thought about. And I was the worst at getting judges' feedback when I first started, because I'm like, I know my weak points. I know what I need to work on. I thought I did. But when I started talking to the judges, it was like they would put a whole new perspective on it. And it might have been, you know, what I knew I needed to work on, but they would give me ways to work on it and just bring things to my attention that I never would have thought about. And that helped me get better. So always compete. You'll always learn something.
I always tell a lot of amateur athletes when they come out and do their presentation, go straight to that box, hit a nice front pose, transition to the rear, nice rear pose, transition back to the front and out of the box. The more you move, the more you walk, the more you turn and spin. When I'm judging, I'm going to find more and more wrong with you.
Yep.
Come out there, go straight to that box, show me your best front pose, your best rear pose, back to the front, and move on, let the next girl come out.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but that's what the judges are doing. They are looking for your flaws. They have to. They have to compare and judge.
Everybody looks good.
Yeah. So they're
so
looking for your flaws.
They have to, you know, kind of pick it to death, you know, pick it apart.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And then we're, you know, I'm a pro judge, and we go to the pro events. I just judged pro bikini 2 weeks ago. I mean, we're splitting hairs between first, second, and third. You could have took any of these three girls, and if you said, you know, this one's going to win, nobody would argue with it. They look amazing. So we went through and had to find out what little detail one of them had and the other one didn't, and that's the difference.
That's hard.
It's very hard, and you have to stick to your guns. You know, the main thing is if you say, hey, you got first and you got second, I can explain what the difference was in first and second.
Yeah.
And I know I hear this all the time. Your workout partner said you was going to win. Your mom said you was going to win. Your girlfriend said you was going to win, and you get there and you didn't win. So whose fault was it? It's the judge's fault, of course.
Oh no.
So come down, talk to us, find out what we're looking at, what we're seeing, and it could change your whole view of the class.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of getting judges' feedback. So that's really good
Hey,
advice.
I want to touch on one thing. When you said judges' feedback, remind me of something a lot of people don't do.
Okay.
Go to NPC News Online. Go up there. It says rules. Click on that. Comes down. If you're a bikini competitor, click on bikini and read that whole page.
Yes.
I've had bikini athletes argue with me that there's no criteria for bikini.
Oh no.
They are a criteria for bikini. Get on there and read it.
That's good advice. Know the judging criteria for
Yes.
division. Very important. Your coach should do that too. Hopefully your coach knows the judging criteria, but if not, they need to know it to coach.
Ask your coach, does he know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So the only other advice that I have on how athletes can help promoters and help grow shows is just tell people about it, tell people to come support you, tag us on social media to help us grow the event, because the bigger the event is, the better we can make it for you. And that's really what it comes down to. Again, we want to make it the best athlete experience possible.
Yes.
I have a couple more questions, Allen, and then I'll let you go.
All right.
Okay, so if people want to get involved in shows, you talked about volunteering at shows. We always need extra help. So if people want to get more involved, what should they do?
For one, contact the promoter of the show, but you can go to their website, send them an email, tell them that you're interested in volunteering. You have to have an NPC card to be a volunteer. And a lot of people don't realize when you volunteer, you may be out front ripping tickets. You may be out front helping put wristbands on. All those roles are important now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes a little bit for you to work your way through. But if anyone volunteers, I always tell everyone, be the best volunteer that you can be.
Yeah.
You know, you've already volunteered. You're going to be there all day. So why go, oh my God, I need to leave in an hour. Just commit, be there, volunteer, and enjoy it.
Yeah. And there are opportunities if people want to learn how to judge or test judge, they would just contact you. They can do that too, but we might need other volunteers depending on what show, but they would just contact you in that case if they want to test judge or do something like that, right?
Yeah. And with my test judging on that, I really want you to volunteer a couple of times before we get right into the judging, because you've been there many a times. You're a judge yourself. A lot of times we may have enough judges, but we don't have enough people to run check-ins or to help out backstage. I need someone, the most valuable person to me is someone that can do a little bit of everything.
Yep.
So, you know, come in, start out volunteering, just volunteering, whatever that may be. And that will be your first step.
That's good advice. All right. So you've already given a lot of really good advice to athletes, but I always wrap up interviews with this question anyway. So if you had to pick one piece of advice, and it can't be get your NPC card because you already said that. So one other piece of advice for new competitors who have never competed, what is that best piece of advice?
I've actually got two pieces of advice.
Okay.
And they go hand in hand. One, have fun. Have fun with it. Enjoy the diet. Enjoy the fish that you're eating and heat it up on the dash of your car. Enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy the journey, you won't enjoy the finish line. So enjoy it. And by enjoying it, what's going to make it more enjoyable? Be early. Be early. I've said this, you laugh every time I say it, but register early. Get your NPC card early. Get your hair and makeup done early. The one thing that I've saw, this is just me speaking personally, stresses an athlete out more than anything if they show up for late at check-ins on Friday and they're rushed. And it just seems like it just throws their whole game off. If they would have got there early, like I said, you've already committed to this. So take off work on Friday, get there early to check-ins, go through check-ins, make it an enjoyable experience. Get your goodie bag, get your photo made with Dan Ray, one of the best photographers in the industry. He's at most of the Tennessee shows. And work your way back, get a nice meal, get your tan on, get a good, nice rest in a hotel. Chill out.
Yeah.
Saturday morning comes around. Most time we have a morning meeting an hour before the show. Be early for that and enjoy it. Relax. That's the biggest advice I got is enjoy it.
That's really good advice. And to play off of getting there early, like you're already going to be stressed. That's just the nature of competing. So if you're rushing, you're going to be putting a lot more extra unnecessary stress on yourself, on your mind and your body, which you don't need. So being extra early to everything is really going to help with that. So that's good advice.
Yeah.
Like
I see a lot of athletes, and you saw a lot of new athletes, and they'll do true novice, and then they may do novice or they open. When they're in that true novice class, which everybody in that class is the first time they ever competed, they're all a little nervous. So when they come back out in their second class, it just seems like they have so much more confidence. Everything is so much better because now they've calmed down, they've relaxed, and everything, they're starting to shine.
Yeah. Yep. So right.
So be early.
I like it. All right, Allen. Well, thank you so much. So much good advice that you've given everybody today. If you want to find Allen or just follow him actually go to @NPC Tennessee is the main page on Instagram. Website is www.npctn.com. You can get a full schedule of Tennessee shows and workshops and so much more. So that's where you would go to find him. Anywhere else? Okay.
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come on and have a chat with you. I always enjoy it. Good luck with the show. I know it's going to be a huge success this year.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.